Welcome to another edition of the Common Sense Podcast.
A common sense approach to real estate.
I'm your host, Kurt Boomer Schenk from The Right Creative, with our real estate expert and star of the show, Carmen Lonardo.
Hi, folks. Hi, Kurt.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing today?
Great.
Good.
Soon
Fantastic.
we'll get to our guest shortly, and but first let's talk about how people can reach you.
Yeah. Well, easiest way is my cell phone. That's 233-4119, 233-4119. You can email at carmen.lonardo@remax.net. And I'm all over social media, Twitter, Realty on the Move, Facebook page. Just put my name in Google, you'll find me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You've done well with he's done well with his SEO.
My SEO.
Yeah. We're going to have Andrew Kachaylo from he's the president of the Greater Rochester Association of Realtors shortly. Mm-hmm. And he's probably going to echo what you're going to talk about the market right now. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, Andy will be able to get us a little bit more insight into the data and what's been happening and what the trends look like. From my perspective, I'm a little disappointed where the market has been going, so far in the fall. It's a little slower than I had anticipated. And, there's probably some election jitters going on out there. There's probably some back-to-school jitters going on. If you've have kids in school or if you're involved in that, you're probably waiting for the other shoe to drop and,
Right.
School's getting closed, so no one knows what their schedule's going to be like. It isn't what's going on in the economy, because the economy is strong and interest rates. I just got an email just yesterday from the National Association of Realtors, and the interest rate is now, as of the end of last week, 2.8%. That's a national average. Which
2.8%. Really?
Yeah, which is down from last year, which was still incredibly low at 3.75%. So that's the mortgage rates are out there.
Yeah.
For people who can buy, but what we'll find out, when we start talking to Andy a little bit more, is the supply, the inventory just is not there, and it's not there in a very big way. That's slowing things down a little bit. So, but you know what? As I've said before, I'm still bullish on the market. All of this stuff is cyclical. And if you are a buyer that's out there and you're looking for a new build, or an existing home, if you are patient and you follow the advice of an expert real estate consultant like myself, we'll get you a home, and we'll get you the home of your dreams.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, we're going to give away some cool stuff today, too.
Yes, we are.
What's going on with that?
Well, last show we gave away a gift certificate for Starr Safety, and today what we're going to do is we have some really cool stuff. I'm going to hold it up for our folks to see, and then there'll be some pictures that Fitz will put up for us so we can see the whole.
Some really cool tchotchkes. Yeah.
But later on in the show, we got some hand sanitizer.
Nice.
Throw it in your purse, throw it in your glove box. For kids in school, throw it in your backpack, or your teacher, or something like that, right? Someone returning back to work. And we also have a Starr Safety mug. I'm not going to hold that up, and a hat. And we also have a T-shirt, an extra large T-shirt.
He's got some really cool tchotchkes.
Yeah. But there's also masks. Don't forget your masks.
Yeah.
Right. All available at Starr Safety. But hang in there, because in just a few very short minutes, we're going to tell you how you can get your delivery or your pickup of the hand sanitizer,
freebies
and stuff. Freebies.
No purchase necessary.
No purchase necessary.
So, why don't you introduce?
Wait, no, I got to buy a house.
This is always a catch.
Always a catch.
Well, let's get to our guest, Andy. Why don't you bring him in, Carm?
Andy Kachaylo is the current president of the Greater Rochester Association of Realtors. He's been a personal friend of mine for a long time. And Andy and I go way back to when I first started in the business, and don't quite remember how we met and hooked up. But he invited me to come to his office and see how things were done. Little did I know that his office was in the basement of an old church at the Penfield Four Corners.
No kidding.
And there we were with Andy and one of his loan officers. He is running Cambridge Mortgage at the time, and I stuffing envelopes and licking stamps on postcards, and just doing the fundamentals.
Okay.
So known Andy for a great long time, and he is professional. He's a great guy, knows the business like the back of his hand, and so he's going to talk to us today about his insights on the market, where real estate might be going here in the next several months, and also put a consumer spin on it.
Good, yeah, and he's very much considered a local expert. I mean, he's been on WAM 13 and XXI, so we're very excited to have you here today on the Carmen Sense podcast, Andy.
And I'm honored to be here, and I'm really looking forward to this. Like I said, like Carmen said, I've known him since the early days, stuffing envelopes, sending out mailers. Before Twitter, before Snapchat, before Instagram. We're talking about mid 2000s. So
wow, boy, you guys are old. All right.
But I use Carmen's story still to this day because Carmen has done everything right from day one. And we came in our office and he sat there and he had zero experience, zero business. This is probably 12 or 15 years ago. He did everything a new agent with no following should do, and today I'm a guest on his show, which is really an honor for me to be here because I was with him at the beginning. So it's awesome.
Thanks,
it's awesome.
That's very cool.
That's nice.
All right, well, let's get to it.
Well, Andy and I both brought some numbers. I think Andy's numbers might be a little bit more current than mine. But, I was shocked when I started looking at these numbers yesterday because, we hear about it all of the time. But then when we actually look at them on paper, it's like, holy camoli, look at what's going on. But when we compare year over year, so January to October, year to date, we have a 7% drop, about a 7% drop of active listings. And these are single-family homes and condominium townhouses. And this is in our entire service area, not just Monroe County or the city of Rochester, but it's the entire service area.
Okay.
And, just to give people an idea of what we're talking about, I'm just going to pick any old month. I'm going to pick August. And I'm going to go back to 2017 when I think, and Andy, chime in whenever you want. I think that's when we really started to see a precipitous drop in inventory. There was some movement in that direction, but 2017, that's when, the hole just opened up in the bottom of the bucket. So I'm going to just pick August just for the heck of it. And in August 2017, we had 49,155 active listings. A year later, that number is down to 48.6. In 2019, a year after, it's down to 47. So it seems to be dropping at about 1,000, right, a year. This year, the number in August was almost 43,000, 42,800 some. So that is a huge drop.
That's substantial.
5,000 over last year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Last year was the first year at our press conference, and this in January for the 12/31 quarter end and the year end. This year was the first year that we reported one sale higher in our market than we did the previous years. The pie has continuously gotten smaller and smaller, and sales have dropped when the pie got smaller.
Sure.
Last year we rounded the curve and we were up by literally by one unit. But in our business, we live on hope and happiness and positivity. So any movement that we can get that indicates tables are turning, we try to take it and run with it and then extrapolate where the future might be.
Okay. What's causing this?
Well, it's anybody's guess why there's such a lack of inventory.
Is it just people are
Fear?
just staying in their homes and there's no jobs?
I mean,
and-
it isn't that that there is this huge influx of buyers. There is a huge influx of buyers,
Okay.
but that's not just it. I mean, clearly the number of listings.
I think
is not
fear has a lot to do with people aren't sure they can find a house.
Right.
So they don't want to sell because they don't want to be put in a position of temporary housing.
I see. Okay.
Right? But on the flip side, you also can't buy a house. If you're a contingent a buyer today,
Right.
you're dead in the water. You can't find a house because there's 15 cash buyers with waiving home inspection standing right behind you in a lot of our markets.
And that's why every time I do this podcast, it makes me want to sell my house. It really does, because I know I could get a premium price on our house that Carmen knows. I mean, people go gaga for that house. But yeah, where would we go?
Well, in a little bit, we'll talk about the median price and what's happened there. But going back to the lack of inventory, it's something that really has to change quite a bit. And I think we've mentioned this number on this podcast before. But something like we need across the country 1.5 new housing units a year, new housing units just to meet the current demand. And in 2007, 2008, when the economy went south, builders ramped down to 300,000 units.
Right,
And I think maybe Andy can speak to this. Last year, we were building, about 1 million units? Not even quite. So we're not even up to building enough to meet current demand.
Housing starts.
Yeah.
And part of the problem isn't the builders unwilling to build. It's the regulatory process to get a development off the ground. I was with a builder yesterday, and he's looking on a 3 to 5 year horizon to develop a new piece of property, to put a shovel in the ground to build a house. So what we're going to see in 2021, since we're nearing the end of 20 now, we're going to see the efforts of these builders in 16, 17, and 18. Those will be the ones that are coming forward with new developments, new subdivisions, different housing styles. And they're in the middle of a lumber crisis, supply chain shortages. Like I don't envy being any business you're in that you're succeeding in is hard. These guys have so many external problems they don't have control over. It's not like finding labor. There's no shortage. I mean, there's labor.
People want to work.
There's labor.
Yeah.
I mean, trades are still difficult to find good ones, but getting material for a framer to frame a house with, that's the problem today.
Yeah, just as a complete aside, I mean, the Fairport lift bridge is delayed because they can't get the stuff they need.
Right.
It has nothing to do with getting the job done. It's just the stuff is just
my office is at the lift bridge.
Is
so
it?
I see it every single day. It's right out in front of our office.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, though, certain things, it's slowed the village life down. People are more walking. They're spending more time in the village, which I think is, and again, I'm an optimist, so I'm going to look for the bright side of anything.
Positive, yeah.
But I think more people are spending more time walking around in the village, and people are slower. And so I think there's more exposure now. When things slow down, people are more exposed, whereas when the bridge is open, the train's the only thing that stops you.
right. Yeah.
Between the bridge and the train, we're good. We have a captive audience.
Right. Before we get into some more stuff, I think this would be a fantastic time to let folks know how they can get the Starr Safety hand sanitizer, mug, T-shirt, and hat. And I think what we'll do is we'll take the third person that calls, not text, calls my cell phone. We will make sure that you get these items. They're hot. Everybody wants them. And if you are the third caller, we'll get them to you. And the number is 233-4119, 233-4119.
And there's the graphics. So.
Dial fast, dial often.
Yes, right.
They're cool.
That's
They're
third
pretty
caller.
pretty,
Yes.
pretty. They're pretty cool. Yeah.
Getting back to the numbers, one of the things I was listening to Lawrence Yoon. Lawrence is the chief economist at the National Association of Realtors. Just a fantastic guy. I'd like to actually meet him in person someday. He seems like
I got a picture of him. Yeah, he's cool.
A really nice guy. I was looking at some information that he put out in August. That was the most recent that I saw. And, it's not all doom and gloom. Home sales across the country are running at a tick higher than they were last year, which is good. But in August, he was, predicting a robust autumn. And, boy, I'd like to hear what he has to say now. Mortgage activity was 30% higher than 2019. Interest rates, as we talked about at the beginning of today's show, were incredibly low. But a 20% reduction year over year in inventory. But something that I think is good, but it could rear its ugly head if this doesn't get corrected soon, and that is this price appreciation. Because it's great if you've got something to sell, right? We'll talk a little bit about what our median prices have been in our market. But it's starting to push the affordability index. And if we start pushing prices higher and higher and higher, we're going to start losing, the ability for first-time home buyers to get a home.
Yeah,
right?
That would make sense.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, the consumer end of that, Andy, and what the consumer might do to sort of help them along in this kind of market.
I think interest rates, like you said earlier in the show, I was listening. Every time you reach a new historic low, that allows somebody to afford more house. So I think part of the price increase is being absorbed by the lower rate, where people are the house goes up by $8,000 or $10,000, but the rate went down and their payment went down. So it's almost a wash.
Right.
I think rates are also so low, like. I remember when 6% was the historic low after 9/11. And, prime rate in 1999 was 9.5. Yep. It has come down. So, rates anymore, people that have bought in the last 5 or 7 years, they don't know what 8% is like, And so our prices, for example, in September in Monroe County were up 8%. For the month of September, that's closed sales. Mm-hmm. For the year over year, it's 10% increase. But it's not every house, and it's not every market, it's not every neighborhood. And what I think most people, and I hope our reach is far and wide here, because what people need you can't just add 10% to your house. You have to prepare, right? From a consumer standpoint, buyers have limited inventory, but what we're seeing in our markets here, in the Greater Rochester Association serves 11 counties. We go all the way to Steuben County, almost to Buffalo, Genesee County, Wyoming County, Livingston, and as far east as Auburn in Cayuga County. So what Carmen's talking about here, in my conversations with agents and brokers throughout our service area, this problem isn't unique to Brighton or Henrietta. It happens in every single market. You're seeing this stuff. Everybody has to be prepared. So buyers know what they want. Most of them are qualified. Very qualified. I've seen more cash than I've ever seen in 25 years. Wow. Cash is, you also have parents who are willing to tap equity in their appreciated house to help their kids get a house to be competitive. You have parents writing checks. So I think we're in, again, every month, every quarter, it's uncharted territory, and we're in more uncharted territory. But it's good territory to be in. We're not in a hurricane.
Are some of those mortgage numbers indicative of people refinancing their mortgage and staying in their house?
There's lots of refis going on here. It's funny because we in the real estate, in the realtor community, we talk about the market pause or market slowdown or lack of work. The phone just isn't ringing. But then we talk to some of our vendors in the financial community, the lenders, the mortgage brokers, and they're just swamped. They're working they're working 20 hours a day, but they're doing a lot of refis.
Right.
Yeah.
The rule of thumb used to be if you could get 1% off your interest rate, it was worth a conversation.
Okay.
Closing costs there's a break even. I used to own a mortgage company, which is when I met Carmen, we were in dual roles. But for 20 years of lending, there's a break even point because you have closing costs. So you need a significant benefit. And as rates go down, you have less interest. So your break even point actually extends out further when you go from 3 to 2 or 3.5 to 2.5. But I was just talking to somebody, they were at 3.625 and they're refinancing now for 2.625 and paying like half a point or something like that. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's almost free.
Wow.
So it's really an opportunity for those people. They also have equity in their houses, so they at 2%, it might be advantageous to somebody to look at pulling out some cash to invest it perhaps. So there's a million different things, but that bogs down the lenders. And then we get, as realtors, we get frustrated when we don't get commitments on time, but the appraisers are swamped, the attorneys are swamped, the title abstractors are swamped.
Surveyors.
Surveyors, even in urban suburban areas where they're not staking the corners and doing all the stuff that you do down in the country, so to speak. Those are taking 4 to 5 weeks.
Wow.
So the days of 30-day, 40-day contracts are out. So we just have to forecast. We have to stay ahead of our game, talking to people, having conversations.
Right.
And I hear from Carmen, different price ranges have different characteristics as well. Like the 300,000 plus price range, which is well above the median here, has different characteristics. So if you're in the 120, 150, 170, which is where the average is, you're going to experience a different market and you'll have a different conversation with different people about it. So, and at $1 million, people get to do exactly what they want. They don't settle at 400, 500, 700. They know what they want, and if they don't see it, they're on to the next house. So you're really looking for a needle in a haystack in those markets. So.
Right.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about, and then we'll move on to something else, what the median price in our market area has looked like. And I'm just going to rattle off some numbers, and you'll see as we get closer to 2020, the difference between, year over year gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So again, I'm just going to pull September. I'm going to, rattle off numbers from 2010. So 10 years ago, this is the median price in September.
All right.
120, 120, 126, 125, 125, 127. 131 in 2016. So you see those numbers, they're increasing, but they're fairly tight, right? So 2016, that number was 131.6. Now we go to 138.5, 144.9, 154 last year to 172 this year in September.
Wow, that's over $40,000 since 2010.
It's huge.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 52,000. About
52.
Yeah.
See, Penfield
There's
High.
That Penfield High math.
Common
High, but,
Common Core.
We're great in business, but we can't add or subtract. Right? That's all right.
We learned everything we need to do in fourth grade: add, subtract, multiply, and divide.
That's right.
That's the realtor business.
The real cool thing, and I was kind of hoping to see what was going on, and it's too early to tell yet. Although October seems to be following the same trend that we've seen, and that is days on market. So how long it takes for one of these listings to actually go under contract. As of now, year to date, which is essentially the end of October, I've got a few days left to go. The average is 30 days.
I'm surprised it's as high as that.
Yeah, I'm seeing sold signs. So if you,
we sold. Yes, sold. I would say today. I'll give you an example. I had an agent call me on a listing. It was on the market for 6 days, and they asked me what was wrong with it.
Yeah. Right.
Literally, they said, why is it not sold? I said, well, I've had 2 people not be able to perform. They've backed out. So actually in 6 days, I'll have 3 contracts on it. So really the average is like 2 per day.
Okay. Wow.
But it's, so 30, I would say. Now, that takes into account the entire market.
Right.
Top to bottom. So
Yeah.
0 to, 2 million or whatever the top price is today. But I think in our median price range,
It's much faster than that.
6 days
Yeah.
and median now. So when we just released our quarterly third quarter and year over year, something that I really was really surprised in Pittsford, for example, year to date, Pittsford's average price median, 380, up 27% year to date. Now that doesn't mean everyone in Pittsford can add 27% to their house, but the average
380.
I remember when Pittsford was 202 and it was the highest. It was the first one over 200.
Yeah.
Because the Pittsford, Perrington, those were always lagging behind Pittsford. Now those houses are still under 300 in those markets, but Pittsford, and I think interest rates have a lot to do with it because when you're at 500,000 and you take 2% off your rate, that's a lot more house you can buy without increasing your payment. So, people make these decisions and have been saving money. Their 401ks have come back for the most part since the pandemic started. Another interesting fact, right? The pie has gotten so much smaller than it was, but today we have more pending sales now than we did this time last year.
Interesting.
Despite the disaster that we've gone through. So,
Right.
But what it means is the houses that were on the market maybe longer than normal last year, above that 30 days, they're the last pick for kickball. Now they're getting picked and they're on a team. So the pie's gotten even smaller by those houses selling, which has increased our pending. So we're running into now, we're going to go into the winter, which some people would believe is a slower time of year.
Yep, quiet time. Yep.
Fourth quarter is my absolute favorite. As an agent, as a consumer, even buyers, there's not as much competition.
Right.
In April, if you're not a 10, a buyer is going to skim you faster than they can swipe right or swipe left on whatever platform they're using. So if you're not a 10, you're not going to get looked at. So now when it's slower, you'll get the 7s and 8s will get slow down. They'll take a look. You might only have 10 offers or 5 offers versus 12 or 20.
Right.
There was one this summer. I was talking to an agent. There were 51 written offers on a house in Henrietta at 150. Like 51 offers.
That's crazy.
Here's another fun fact. Canisius Lake.
Yeah. I'd like to live there.
One of my offices is on Canisius Lake, and my firm we sell a lot of the property on the lake. Canisius Lake had 3 $1 million sales this year, over $1 million this year, 2020, and 2 of them were after COVID. So the market has changed there.
Interesting.
People are knocking on doors now. If I have a buyer and I can't find a house, but I know the neighborhood that they want to live in, you would go and knock on the door. You can't tell a market during the pandemic state of emergency. We can't make outbound phone calls. But if I have a buyer, a real buyer, we're now knocking on doors. So I think old school tactics, and back to Carmen's early days, he did what it was take. Today, realtors are going to have to step outside of that box and actually connect 2 dots together that don't exist. They're going to have to see things that don't exist. And I think that will become the new norm, like virtual tours in March. You don't see that as much anymore, but without any inventory, there's no virtual tours to make. So you have to go and create a market.
Right.
And that's where solid, again, for anyone listening, and I've known Carmen a long time, and I say that because I've seen him grow and I've seen him do it. So those are the kinds of agents that are going to still survive through the market regardless of what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, since you said I like to accentuate the positive, which was a song from a few years ago, it's a seller's market. So what are the buyers? What would you tell buyers then?
What buyers need to be, number one, first and foremost, they need to be prepared.
Okay.
They need to look well below their top end. So, for example, if you're qualified to 250, you cannot look at a 250 house because 250 is 270. because you're going to be in a bidding war. So if you're a 250 buyer, you really should be looking at 215 to 230 maybe.
Interesting. Okay.
You also should take another look at something that's been on the market for 30, 40, 60 days, because that one got passed over. I'm showing one today. When I'm done, when we leave here today, I'm showing a house that's been on the market for 65 days. And the first question I ask the agent is, there something I don't know?
Right.
What do I need to know? And buyers are looking for updated and done. Today, so if you struggle to save money to buy a house and pay your closing costs and your down payment and your taxes and all that stuff, a lot of those people don't have the extra money to put 20 grand into a rehab.
Gotcha.
So what happens, they can do one or the other. So what we're now telling people to consider is go with a 203K FHA loan on a house that's been on the market for 60 days. You can get the money to fix it up because the appreciation is already there.
Yep.
So you can. So, and again, this is out of the box thinking, and it's a way to achieve a goal for somebody that maybe didn't think they could get a house. They're going to be able to get a house because we're going to be outside of the box. Not everybody's going to think of that. So.
Right.
I want to say something there, because Andy makes a good point, and I want to go back to the previous episode of Carmen Sense, where Kim Chiswick from Fairway Mortgage came in and talked to us in pretty good detail about these rehab loans. So it's purchase and rehab, and the 203 program is one that she mentioned on the show. So if you want to know about that, certainly give us a call, and we'll direct you to Kim, who is one of the local experts.
She is
in those mortgages.
Yeah. We're getting close to time here. So any final points we want to bring up while Andy's here?
Well,
wrap this up?
If somebody wants some more detailed numbers, both Andy and I are happy to provide them for you. Andy, how do folks get a hold of you?
So I'm here as a representative of all 3,000 of our members. So the number at the board is 292-5000, and you could reach me there. Fortunately or unfortunately, at the end of 2020 will be the end of my term as presidency. So for anyone listening, I'd like to welcome Lainey Bittner. She's also a RE/MAX agent for RE/MAX Plus. She's my president-elect and has been for the last 2 years. I've served 2 years as president. She will take over as president next year. And her, and along with our board of directors, I'll still serve as past president and be a source. But so today, reaching out on behalf of all, I represent all of our members. But
so what's the best way to reach the Greater Rochester Association of Realtors?
292-5000 is the phone number.
292-5000. Okay.
With the COVID, the office isn't a walk-in office now. With all the safety protocols, classes, and everything have been either severely limited or moved virtual. But we still serve all of the members' needs either through the phone, through the internet, through Zoom, or by appointment if they need something specifically in the office. But the board is kind of what I say at the meetings is the board is like going to your grandmother's house. We're the glue that holds all 3,000 competitors, right? Carmen, as a practicing agent, Carmen is my competitor, but we always work together to get deals done because I don't have all of the buyers.
Right.
I may have a listing. If I have a listing, I might not have a buyer. I need Carmen. So it's one of the unique industries in the world that competitors work together to solve problems, which is find somebody a house, get them in, out, or up wherever they are. And we make dreams come true on a daily basis. But if you're a seller and you hear this, please, please, please listen to the advice of a realtor. Prepare, prepare, prepare. You can't over prepare because the buyers know what they want and they will pass you by. So sellers, just please prepare, price accurately, no shortage of buyers.
Okay.
That's my advice to a seller.
Yeah.
All right.
Sage advice.
Okay. Yeah. And Andy mentioned Grandma's house, and the kitchen at Grandma's house was really, really good. So I think it's time for
Carmen Cooks.
There you go.
So, what's on the menu today, Carmen?
Well, it's not what's on the menu today. It's what is going to enhance your menu today.
Okay.
And that is some hot pepper spread, which is super easy to make. You just slice up your hot peppers. If you don't like it super hot, you can mix in some of the sweet varieties as well. Put them in a colander, put a whole bunch of salt in there, and throw them in the fridge over a bowl and get all of that liquid to sweat out. And then I like to mix mine with a little bit of garlic and maybe a little bit of salt and put them in some oil and then just jar them up. And great for a sandwich. You can just spread it on a sandwich. You can spread it on a steak. You can spread it on whatever.
Steak.
Yeah. And what I've done before too, which is super easy, is if you've got a big quantity, you can put an immersion blender in there and just whip it up into more of a sauce.
Okay.
Tasty stuff, and you can make it taste like however you want. Garlic, add ginger, add onions, add whatever you like.
And it's with the colder weather here. I mean, that's
especially now this time of year. The harvest is over, but we still have a bunch of stuff we got to deal with. That's a good way to get rid of a bunch of peppers.
Yeah, peppers and tomatoes and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Carm. Let's wrap things up with how to reach you again.
Easiest way, as always, is cell phone 233-4119 or my email address, carmen.lonardo@remax.net.
I'd like to thank Andy for joining us here today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
And I'd like to thank Starr Safety for the tchotchkes.
Yeah.
If you have not called right now for your chance at winning some really cool stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So thanks for watching and listening to the Common Sense podcast.
A common sense approach to real estate.
Please like us on your favorites.
iTunes,
Stitcher, all that
podcast,
stuff. Yeah.
all of that.
And the guy who really helps us with that stuff, his name is Fitz here at RockVox, and somehow he makes us look good. Because, yes, we do have faces for radio, as Andy said earlier.
Amen, brother.
So look him up at rockvox.com if you're interested in doing podcasts and all sorts of recording and video. He does everything. So
and, one thing, too, it's not just here in the studio. I mean, he can take his production crew out to your business location or your family location or whatever and shoot it there as well. That's
true. And I'm Kurt Boomer Schenk. You can find me at therightcreative.net for voiceovers and podcasting, hosting, and all sorts of stuff. So thanks for joining us from Carmen Lonardo here at the Common Sense Podcast.
And Common Sense Approach to Real Estate.
And thanks for listening and watching, folks.
See you next time.